with neither too much determination nor too little, with attention that is neither strained nor slack. Each of these things must be present to just the right extent. The process is largely automatic. It goes ahead readily of its own accord when the various necessary conditions come together in the proper way. If they do not come together in just the right way, the process will automatically stop and come to nothing. The meditator must do two jobs at once. He must fix his mind on the counterpart sign and at the same time gather in all 5 jhana factors, maintaining them until they gradually grow distinct and firm. Success in fixing the mind on the sign can be achieved with the experience gained from guarding the sign and establishing it firmly in the mind. It will take weeks to make the sign firm enough to serve as a basis for gathering in the jhana factors completely and perfectly. Some people may have to practice for months, or years, or may, because of an unsuitable disposition, or for some other reason, fail altogether to reach full concentration. Such people must give up concentration and take up insight meditation instead, aiming at deliverance through insight, Panavamudi. People who have a disposition suitable for concentration practice may achieve success by first gathering in the jhana factors and attaining jhana step by step, and then practicing insight meditation aided by their powerful concentration. Attain deliverance of mind, Sitovamudi. Anyone interested in this practice of full concentration must, therefore, have especially strong perseverance to guard the sign without becoming discouraged, so long as it has not yet given rise to full concentration. This is what is meant by guarding and supporting the counterpart sign during neighborhood concentration until the attainment of full concentration. To facilitate the attainment of full concentration, the meditator guarding the newly arisen sign
is advised to create the most favorable physical conditions possible. For example, B should use footwear rather than going barefoot so that he need not waste time or be distracted by washing his feet. The annoyance occasioned by such acts may distract his mind and prevent his guarding the sign and making it progressively finer. In some cases, the use of a walking stick is recommended so that standing is comfortable and walking easy and steady, conducive to guarding the sign. The meditator should also carefully examine and adjust once more the 7 beneficial things: dwelling, resort, speech, persons, food, climate, and posture, see page 69, so that they are as favorable as possible to the guarding of the sign. Continuous guarding of the sign may become boring and discouraging. To avoid boredom and develop zeal and satisfaction, the meditator should understand the sequence of phenomena leading to jhana. This sequence is as follows. 1. The arising of the counterpart sign diminishes the hindrances, but full concentration is still unstable. Arising and fading continually until such time as all 5 jhana factors have been fully gathered in. 2. Once the hindrances have been diminished, the jhana factors appear. The meditator has to develop them until all 5 are fully present. This he does using the counterpart sign as basis and the 5 arising factors as objects. 3. When all 5 factors are fully present, the level of concentration called the first jhana is attained. This makes it clear that in this step of the practice the task is to guard the sign and keep it firm and steady, and at the same time to gather in the 5 jhana factors and so induce full concentration. There exist techniques for speeding up the attainment of full concentration at the stage of guarding the sign. They are called apanakosala, skill in inducing full concentration. 10 kinds of skill have been recommended.
1. Creating favorable physical conditions. 2. Harmonizing the 5 mental faculties. 3. Skill regarding the sign. 4. Exerting the mind when it needs to be exerted. 5. Subduing the mind when it needs to be subdued. 6. Encouraging the mind when it needs to be encouraged. 7. Controlling the mind when it needs to be controlled. 8. Avoiding unstable people and things. 9. Associating with stable people. 10. Bending the mind according to the situation. These 10 skills are explained as follows. 1. Creating favorable physical conditions. This means keeping the body in good order and making the things related to the body as favorable as possible. Hair, nails, teeth, and skin should be kept clean so that the meditator feels comfortable and experiences no annoyance from them. Long hair or a heavy beard may cause itching. Long nails become dirty and may be annoying, as may also unclean teeth and skin. it is desirable to make all these things neat and clean before beginning to concentrate the mind. Other things, such as clothing and lodging, should be suitably spruced up, made as neat and clean as possible. This is what is meant by creating favorable physical conditions. T is just a matter of common sense. The essence of this first skill is that the meditator should have sufficient bodily comfort. 2. Harmonizing the 5 mental faculties. Indriya. The term indriya means a quality that is supreme in its particular function. From the point of view of mental development, the mental faculties are 5 in number, namely confidence, sada, effort, viriya, mindfulness, sati, concentration, samadhi, and insight, paha. As indriyas, supreme things, these 5 not only signify faculties that are developed at this stage in the practice, but also imply personal virtues which a person may possess naturally as part of his mental makeup. They increase in the course of his studies, depending on what he has heard before undertaking the practice.
In combination, they constitute the foundation of a person's current disposition. They are prime virtues of great importance on which the success or failure of mental training depends. They are akin to the 6 character types discussed in the beginning. Here it is intended that they should be adjusted and modified so as to benefit the practice. The 5 faculties thus become important powers, conducive to success rather than obstacles, provided they are properly harmonized. Here, to harmonize means to balance and coordinate. The essence of coordinating the faculties consists in harmonizing confidence with insight, energy with concentration, and concentration with insight. Mindfulness is to be applied in full measure regardless. That confidence or faith is to be harmonized with insight means that faith must not outweigh understanding to the extent that it becomes blind belief. Mere superstition, which is harmful. What is required in the practice is faith that is based on reason and stands the test of reason. The same applies to understanding. If not accompanied by confidence, it will be mere theorizing. The meditator must have confidence, for example, in the enlightenment of the Buddha. As a support for his knowledge gained by listening and studying, Sudamayapanna. He then investigates, examines, and contemplates until he has knowledge gained by thinking, Sintamayapanna. And lastly, he has to put all this knowledge into practice so that he realizes the truth of it for himself. He then has knowledge gained by practice or mental development, Vivadamayapanna. Thus, there are 3 different levels of understanding, each of which must be accompanied by confidence or sada based on or supported by it. At the first level, one hears and simply believes in what someone says and does. Then, after having considered and understood, and having found the statement to be reasonable and in agreement with previous ideas, one has a higher degree of confidence.
And finally, when one has actually practiced and realized the fruits of the practice, one has confidence at the highest level. That is belief in a truth that has become evident to one's own mind, based on neither authority nor reasoning. This is what is meant by balancing faith and understanding, sada and panna. The meditator must be aware of all this and see it in himself. He will then be able to coordinate belief and understanding properly, keeping them suitably balanced and in harmony. If he lets either one predominate, his practice will go amiss. Balancing energy with concentration can easily be explained in terms of an analogy. Energy, viriya, is like speed, and concentration, samadhi, like the governor that regulates it. If the 2 are not coordinated, what is the result? Again, concentration is like the weight of a bullet, energy like the force of the gunpowder that propels it. If the 2 are not balanced, what is the result? If energy exceeds concentration, that excess energy is undirected and is dissipated. If concentration exceeds energy, then the meditator becomes lax and sluggish and may make no progress at all. So activating the mind and restraining it must go together. Energy and concentration must be properly balanced. Balancing concentration with understanding may take place by itself, naturally, if the meditator is habitually restrained in his mental activity. If he always makes his mind steady before thinking over any object, first concentrating on it and only then considering it, he will gain full understanding of that object according to reality. This is investigation with a steady mind, or steadiness in investigation, call it what you will. Mindfulness is needed in all cases. Mindfulness occupies a central position, as it were arranging the other four faculties into pairs and advising them how to perform their respective duties properly and harmoniously from beginning to end. For example,
mindfulness enables confidence to judge how much to believe. It introduces confidence to the companionship of understanding. It compels confidence and understanding to go together. The meditator needs mindfulness as a means of controlling various other things, most particularly the other four faculties. With care he can coordinate them steadily and harmoniously. With the faculties working suitably together, the mind is steady. It has kamaniya bhava, that is, agility and adaptability. And so can do progressively finer work. This is what is meant by balancing the faculties, the coordinating of all the qualities necessary for successful practice. 3. Skill regarding the sign. With all five faculties balanced, skill regarding the sign comes easily. A meditator possessing this skill is able to observe mindfully the successive arising of various phenomena. He observes what arises and on what it depends. He knows what ought to be concentrated on and what ought not. What ought to be speeded up and what ought to be slowed down, so that all goes well and smoothly in the steps of 1. Inducing the sign, 2. Developing it, and 3. Protecting it for as long as desired. At this stage of the practice the term sign refers to the single object on which the mind is focused. This sign implies one-pointedness, the fifth jhana factor, and it is with regard to this sign that the threefold skill just mentioned has to be acquired. Whether the meditator succeeds fully in this will depend on how much skill he has already developed with the preceding signs. Acquired and counter-part.so. Even at the stages of acquired sign and counterpart sign the meditator ought to be developing the threefold skill so as to become thoroughly familiar with it. 1. Skill in inducing the sign. This means skill in gathering the mind on the concentration object in the earlier steps of the practice and so directing the mind as to give rise to the sign of the next higher step. As an anapanasati, skill in inducing the sign means skill in thoroughly stabilizing the mind on the counterpart sign until such time as the hindrances have been caused to subside and all the five jhana factors gathered in. Of the jhana factors the most important at this stage is one-pointedness, because it becomes the new sign, replacing the counterpart sign. 2. Skill in developing the sign. This consists in progressively intensifying the sign if it is indistinct, or in intensifying one of the five jhana factors, vitakka, vikara, piti, sukha, ekaggata, that happens to be weak, indistinct, or fluctuating. 3. Skill in protecting the sign. This consists in protecting every kind of sign at all times. Whether in the early stages when the sign is developed for the first time, or in later stages, when it has already been fully established. The newly arisen sign will soon fade away if not practiced repeatedly, just as does a recently acquired manual skill. Even after the sign has been fully established, disturbing factors may arise if it is not protected carefully, just as a manual skill in which one has become perfect is lost completely if neglected for too long. So, all stages of acquired sign and counterpart sign have to be protected. Only when the meditator has become perfectly skilled in jhana may he leave off protecting the signs. At the stage of anapanasati, all the jhana factors, especially the last, one-pointedness, must be developed in a way similar to but subtler than the above. In essence, this means being always well versed in the various kinds of mastery, vasi, discussed later, and always arousing one's interest in the practice by developing the basis of success, iddhipada, already well known. To sum up, to have skill regarding the sign consists in knowing how to induce the sign, how to intensify it, and how to maintain it for as long as required. To acquire this threefold skill, the meditator has to exercise care.